Hi guys, today's video is a video that I feel like I am so late to the game on. This is a brand that I'm so late to the game on, and I'm so excited to be finally featuring this brand on my channel. We are of course talking about Cosmic Brushes, which was all the hype last year because of their Serenity palette. I know so many people who ranked this in like their top 3 of last year. Here's what the palette looks like. I did end up buying these myself when they came out with their newest palette, which is the Muse or Muse palette. I'm not sure exactly how you say that, but this is the palette that they launched last, and I was able to snag this. It sold out, I want to say, in like 5 minutes. So I really wanted to get this video up now to show you these palettes because these are going to restock very soon on March 4th at 2 p.m. PST. So if this is something that you're interested in, I would highly recommend you set the alarm because they are probably going to sell out again. I know that's annoying, and if you're not able to like be around at that time, you're probably going to miss out, but if you really want to get these palettes, set the alarm, be there on time, like don't be 2 minutes late if you really want these. I'm just saying, like they're probably gonna sell out again because they are really nice. And so I'm excited to show these to you. I'll show you some swatches real quick because I feel like the color stories on these palettes are very unique, and I feel like despite them being pretty large palettes, like count-wise, the number of shades that are in them, they are still curated color stories that are well thought out and that you can do a lot of different things with. So I have already done one look with each of these palettes, and I think because I want to do one look combining the palettes now, I simply don't have time to do more looks because, like I said, also I do want to get this video up before it's going to come back in stock. And when I did those 2 looks, I was very impressed after my first look. I even messaged the brand. I was like, hey, do you guys have an affiliate program? Because I would love to join. So I do have a code with them. It should just be Annette. If it's anything else, it will be on the screen or in my description box. But try Annette and see if that works. It is affiliated, just so you know. But I was so impressed when I did my first look with the Muse palette, which I will show you this look right now, because I feel like I have some thoughts on the Serenity palette, and I feel like the look that I did with the Muse palette was absolutely perfect. Like I loved everything about that look. I started off using the yellow matte shade in my crease, which at first I was a little bit like, I had very high expectations going into this. Keep that in mind because I knew that the brand was super hyped. And so I put that shade on my eyes. I was like, yeah, that's nice. Like it wasn't anything to like write home about. But then I went to deepen up that shade with the dark brown, and I was like, holy shit. Like this is absolutely amazing. Like the dark mattes in this palette are so buttery, so creamy, so smooth, so easy to work with, so just buildable, and I had such a good time with this palette. The shimmers are really nice as well. They're more of that kind of creamy putty formula, but they also have a little bit more of like a waxiness to them than some other brands. They don't feel kind of as, it's hard to explain, like you almost have to try it yourself, but I found that they wore pretty nicely. I had a little bit of creasing, nothing to, you know, complain about. It was totally fine and within the norm of like creasing for me with my hooded eyes. I do tend to, with creamy shimmers, have a little bit of creasing, but nothing that really bothers me, nothing that a tap with a finger over the top of it is going to fix. So I have just been so impressed with this that I'm really excited to be doing another look. I'll show you the look I did with the Serenity palette as well. And I would say that my only complaint with this palette might just be like user error. So I started with a pastel matte in my crease, which a lot of the time if you use a matte pastel as a transition shade and then try to deepen it up, the dark shade that you put on top might tend to kind of not wash away, but just like not want to stick properly. And I think that's because with pastel mattes, they have a lot of white in them, which makes them a little bit kind of like chalky and like powdery, and so it's harder for darker colors to layer over the top of it. So I think that was my mistake. I think that if you're going to use the dark blue in this palette, start with that one first if you're going to use a pastel to blend it out with. If you're not going to use a pastel to blend it out with and you're going to use any of these other like lighter colors but not like pastels, I think that you'll be able to build a little bit better. I also did have a little bit of fallout, which again is just because I layered on top of a pastel, and so it just kind of like didn't want to stick properly, and I think that's my mistake, honestly. So I don't really think that this is the palette. It's just something you kind of need to know when working with colorful shadows, that layering over the top of pastels is sometimes going to be a little bit tricky depending on the formula, but everything here is super pigmented. I like the shimmers that I use as well. Same thing with the first look. I did have a little bit of creasing at the end of the day. Nothing too bad. Yeah, I'm just excited. I'm excited to do a look combining these two. Ideally, I would have liked to do at least 2 looks with each palette, but I simply just don't have time. So we're just gonna combine, we're gonna see what happens. I'm gonna just prime with my Natasha Denona eyeshadow base like I did in my previous looks, because that is what I always use and I absolutely love it. Not sure if you can hear it in my voice, but I feel like I'm getting a little bit congested again. And I am not about getting sick. Like, I was just sick like 2 weeks ago. Like, this is not happening. Like, I am manifesting right now that I am not getting sick, because I am not about getting sick anymore. Like, it's not gonna happen. So fingers crossed that I'll just be fine tomorrow. Could just be one of those days where I wake up and I just feel kind of meh, and then it just goes away. Hopefully, I'm sure you know what I mean. So let's see, what do I want to do? I'm thinking I want to use, what do I want to use that I haven't used yet? I kind of want to try out the black in the Serenity palette. And matte wise, I kind of want to try this purple as well, because I haven't really played with that one. So maybe I'll do those from this palette, and then I'll do maybe some other mattes underneath my eye from the other palette. Honestly, I think I like the color story of the Muse palette a little bit more, just because I feel like I'm not as into pastels as other people are. So I feel like this one is more kind of like mid-tone to deep, whereas this one is a little bit more on the brighter side, but it does have like super dark mattes as well, which I do appreciate. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this color as my kind of transition shade and see how that goes. This is the shade here called Pixie. I'm just gonna put this in, like, see how pigmented that is. That is absolutely beautiful. I'm just gonna use this as my transition shade, and then probably use the black to deepen it up with. I'm not sure what else I wanna do. Maybe I'll do like a pop of pastel in my inner corner as well. I really like that both of these palettes have a iridescent shade in them, because it can just be used with any look pretty much as an inner corner shade, and I love having an inner corner shade in palettes. And if you're unfamiliar with this brand, this is a UK-based brand, and these palettes are very affordable. They're like $20 a pop, £20, I forget, but they're very, very affordable palettes. So if you've been looking for like colorful eyeshadows and you don't want to splurge on like bigger indie brands like maybe Unearthly, or brands that have like, you know, more expensive palettes, definitely a brand to look into. And I feel like that is why they keep selling out, because their prices are just so reasonable and the quality is so good as well. So I would say if you are interested in trying the brand, I would definitely recommend it, because you really can't beat the price, and the packaging is also really, really nice. Like, at first I thought the packaging, just from like watching other people's videos, I thought that the packaging would be like the Norina palettes. Like, I don't know why I thought it would be plastic, but it's not plastic, it's like a cardboard, and I prefer that by far. So I was very happy when I took it out of the packaging and it wasn't plastic. I don't know why I thought it would be. It just kind of looked like it from everybody's videos. I don't know. I am also using the iridescent shade in the Muse palette. I don't know if it's Muse or Muse. I think it's just Muse as my highlighter today. And I would say it's not like my favorite as a face highlighter, but then again, it is an eyeshadow. So I feel like it's a little bit too, it doesn't have enough like translucency to it. I feel like that's kind of where I'm like, it doesn't look like a highlighter on a face, which again, it's not supposed to be a highlighter, but I just thought I would let you know in case you were curious. Let's see, what do I want to do under my eye? I am going to deepen this up, but I want to do my under eye color before I do that, because I find it a little bit easier to kind of connect in the outer corner when I have both of the shades already put on my eyes. I'm looking in this palette and I'm like, could that be fun? Like, maybe these two colors under my eye? I'm gonna start with this one. No, I'm gonna start with the darkest one, and I'm gonna blend it out with the lighter one. I'm gonna take a pencil brush here. Of course, you can do this in any order that you want yourself, but this is just kind of what I'm doing today. It just really depends on my mood and which order I do things. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take this pretty much all the way across my lower lash line. I'm gonna leave a little bit of room in the inner corner, because I do like my lower lash line and the front portion to be a little bit lighter. I'm just gonna kind of wing it out a little bit here, and then connect everything with the black and blend it all together. Like, I really, really like the green shadows in these palettes. I think that they are so beautiful and so impactful, and the tones in them are so great. Like, I love green eyeshadow. I mean, you guys know that because I use it all the time, but these are just really, really nice. I know it's looking a little great because of the order that I'm doing things in. I'm gonna take my Rephr 13 and I'm gonna grab the black in the Serenity palette. When I swatched this, it definitely didn't seem like the most like super intense black. So I'm expecting it to be like on the buildable side, and that's what it seems to be. Now I am loading off my brush because I'm not someone who taps off my brush with eyeshadows. And it's a shock that I don't get more fallout than I do. But I'm pretty good at like laying down the eyeshadow before I start blending it. And I don't really use like big motions, so I tend to be able to just put down the color where it is that I want it to be before I really start blending it out. But as you can see, it's very nice and pigmented. It's also not like the most blackest black eyeshadow that I have in my collection, but it's clearly black. Like it's obviously very black. It's blending out super nicely, and it also laid down beautifully as well. So I really like that black. That is really nice. I'm just taking that onto my lid as well, so that when I go in with the shimmers and I start layering them over the black, I'm gonna get a better gradient. And I really like how shimmers look over the top of black eyeshadow as well. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do the same on this eye. This is a very easy black to work with, in my opinion. It's looking a little bit blocky, but I'm gonna go over it with the transition shade. Just bring that up a little bit. Just gonna go in with that same brush that I used with the same color from the Serenity palette with the purple shade, and just gonna run that over the edge of the black here. I think that looks very nice. I'm gonna take another fluffy brush and I'm gonna use the shade, I'm making a lot of sound, probably Nouveau, which is this one, and I'm going to use that to blend out my lower lash line. I really enjoy using more than one palette to do my makeup with, because I feel like I can do exactly what I want because I have so many options, and it's just kind of fun to mix together color stories that aren't maybe intended to be mixed together. Like, these are obviously two separate palettes for a reason, but I find that they complement each other very nicely. So I'm just gonna go ahead and smoke this out underneath my eye here. Make sure that my outer corner is blended together. I'll go back in with that darker green as well. This is definitely more of a bluish color, so it is changing up the look a little bit. And then just going back in with the shade Pine, which was the dark green, and just making sure that the outer corner here is nice and blended into the top lid. Just gonna take the tiniest amount of a nude colored eyeshadow. I like using the one from the Blend Bunny palette because this shade is pretty much the same shade as my skin tone, but a little bit lighter. I'm just gonna kind of run that on the edge underneath here just to tone it down and blend it out a little bit. And then we're gonna do the shimmers. I am going to use glitter primer. You don't have to do that at all, but these shimmers are a little bit on the creamy side, so I find that having a sticky brush to pick them up with is a little bit easier. Just using a dual-ended brush from Sigma that came with one of their palettes. Really not that important which brush you're using to apply shimmers with. Just make sure it's like a flat brush. Just putting that glitter primer all over my lid. Let's see, I maybe should have thought of this before I started which colors I want to use, but I'm thinking I want to do, since this look is purple and green, I kind of want to do purple and green on my lids. I'm actually going to start with this color, which is more of a satin. I find that the darker the shimmers in these palettes, the less of a shine they have, which to me makes sense because I mostly use darker shimmers like this as like a bridge color in between mattes and shimmers, so I don't mind if the darker shimmers are more satiny, because this is how I like to use them. But in general, I'm not like the biggest fan of satin shades, but like I said, it makes sense to me that these are the ones that are satins. And it also is fun that there are a lot of different textures and formulas within the shimmers in these palettes, so it's kind of fun to play around with. But this is going on very nicely, and it's doing exactly what it is that I wanted to do, is blending into that black shade very, very nicely, and I think it's going to be a good color to blend another shimmer into. Not exactly sure what else I want to do. Again, I don't usually have a plan before starting things, so I think I'm going to use the green shade because I'm pretty sure I have not used this one before. I think I used a little bit of this one in my first look. So I'm gonna take this shade. I may have used like the tiniest amount of it, but at least I don't remember. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put that on pretty much the rest of my lid. I think that's gonna be the plan. I think that's gonna be really nice. I love the color combination between pink and purple. It's also something that I feel like I've done many times before, and it's one of those things that you gotta be a little bit careful usually if you try to blend a green into a purple, but when it's shimmers, they're not going to really get muddy in the same way that they would if it was matte, so you have way more leeway trying to blend a different colored shimmer into another shimmer. Just something to keep in mind if you want to work with like complementary colors or something like that. Maybe do it in the form of shimmers rather than mattes, because you're not going to end up running into troubles trying to blend them together. But these shimmers are really pretty. They're very nice and shiny and metallic. I wouldn't say they're necessarily sparkly. They don't really have like glitters in them, but they're very smooth and they just look really nice on the eyes. Maybe I'll take a tiny amount of like a blue right in between these two. I think that could be fun because I can't help myself. Once I start, I cannot stop. So I'm just gonna take that right in between the purple and the green. These are obviously gonna blend beautifully together. Just gonna put that right there. I don't want a lot of it, just enough that you can kind of see it. I think that made a little difference, which is exactly what I wanted, just to pull in one more color. And I am also going to use both of the iridescent shades, I think, because I feel like they're gonna go with this look. Maybe not the purple. No, the purple should be fine too, or the pink. I'll use that on my brow bone, but I'm gonna take the green iridescent shimmer from the Serenity palette, and I'm gonna use that. Actually, I'm gonna use quite a lot of this. So again, these are not, I wouldn't say these are like sparkly by any means. They're not like the iridescents from Cleona or Terra Moons or like any other brands that have come out with singles. These are more of a smooth, a little bit, how would I explain this? They almost look a little, not dry, but they don't look as creamy and like metallic as maybe some other brands, but they just look really nice and smooth on the eyes. And if you're someone who don't like textured eyeshadows, I think that you're really going to like these, because I don't find that they really accentuate like anything that you don't want to be accentuated on your eyes, and they just look very nice. Like that looks beautiful. Is this all I want to do though? I'm tempted to take some of, like I said, when I start, I can't stop. I'm gonna take a little bit of this shade as well, which is the very bright green that I have used already, but I just want to have like a little bit, just a little bit of that like right here. This is not gonna make a big difference, but I just really wanted to pull in some of this color as well. Okay, I like this a lot. Last step, I'm gonna take the shade Luster, which is the iridescent one in the Muse palette, and I'm gonna use that on my brow bone, just right here. And there is a very nice large mirror in both of these palettes, which is really nice if you want to bring these traveling or something like that. I'm sure you can see there's a big mirror in here. So if you like doing your makeup, like holding something like I do, it can be kind of nice. If you don't have like a handheld mirror, which I mean, if you like doing your makeup holding something, you probably do. But sometimes it's nice to have a mirror and palette. So I think this is going to be like the final eyeshadow look. I'm just gonna go ahead and finish up real quick. I popped on some lashes and something in my waterline, and I'm using the About Face liner in the shade Line Artist. I feel like I used that in one of the other looks too, but it's one of my favorite green eyeliners in my collection. I think this one is really nice. My lashes today are the Bubble Pop lashes from Unicorn Cosmetics, and I was feeling brave. Like, these are quite large lashes, and I don't always have it in me to want to put on something that is quite aggressive as this, but since I'm not going anywhere today, I was like, you know what? I like these lashes. I think they're beautiful, and I feel like my application is okay. It's not perfect. It's like a 7.8 out of 10, but that's totally good enough. Let's talk about these palettes though. I think that like I said in the beginning of the video, I think if you're interested in these palettes and you end up picking them up, I don't think you're going to be disappointed at all. I think these are beautiful, beautiful palettes, and I'm so happy that I was finally able to try this brand because they have been on my like to try list for a very long time, and I felt like I was just a little too late to the game on the Serenity palette, so I just never really picked it up because I was like, is anyone really gonna care about my review on this? It keeps selling out and it's been hyped for so long. Like everybody knows about this palette. So I was like, I'll wait until their next launch. And then when I saw they came out with a new palette, I jumped on it as soon as I could and I could not be happier. So let me know if you plan on picking these up. Let me know if you have the first palette. Let me know if you've tried the brand, how you feel about it. Do you like the formulas in here? I think they're really, really nice. And I think that it's going to be a brand that I'm excited to see what they do in the future, and I'm definitely going to be picking up their next palette. I think that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know which look was your favorite. If you want to see some other first impression or indie makeup reviews, I'll put my playlist up on the screen. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.